So what are the primary components of an invoice? Well, generally you'll start with the date. That indicates the date that the invoice is sent out, or in some situations received by the debtor or the individual owing money on the invoice. Okay, next you'll see the total amount due. This is simply generally stated as either the number of units times the price per unit, and then it'll move down to shipping costs, taxes incurred, and other things to give a subtotal. In the event it's for hours of service or total service job, you'll indicate as much as such. The important part here is that you indicate as much detail as possible for accounting purposes internally and for the recipient of the invoice. Next, payment due date. And there are tons of provisions available that you can use for payment due date or when it's due. That is covered in other material. But the important thing is that you determine the characteristics or provisions for payment and when the due date comes due for payment. Okay, in the event there was a stipulation for an advance payment or a deposit prior to shipment or something like that, you will account for that, the receipt of that money and the crediting of that amount paid against the total owed. Okay, if there are payment plan details where there's financing involved, you will state, generally subject to whatever the provisions of the payment plan are, and oftentimes it will be a standard payment plan that can be contained in a separate document from the specific invoice that you're sending, that lays out the different financing terms, the interest charged, if any, the penalties for late payment, and such. And then a list of acceptable payment methods. Is a check required? Should cash be sent? Is it wire transfer, credit cards, things like that? The means and method by which the individual can receive payment. Now, once all of these things are collectively presented in a easily understood manner, then you have a functioning, capable invoice.